So we've just laid the foundation for our new paradigm, and we mentioned deep ecology, social ecology, ecofeminism. Now we need to discuss a few more elements of this new paradigm that we need to have the right approach to environmentalism. Obviously, this new paradigm has got to bridge the gap between science and religion. Because for 500 years or so, there's been a rift. And the Western world has kind of been fixated on the scientific side of this chasm or rift. And religion has been relegated to the private domain. It used to be out in the public square. Now it's difficult for religion to get out into the public square. People don't see how they're connected as well as they should. But as science comes full circle, and I mentioned in the last video about developments in 20th century science, we've discovered the double helix of DNA, and we've understood the unconscious, if you want to call psychology a science as well. We've got quantum physics, we've got the theory of relativity, and these things, along with a lot of corollaries and spin-offs and so on, like string theory, which posits a 10 or 11 dimensional universe. When we take that whole modern physical worldview into account, and again you might want to throw in what's come from looking at, originally Hubble through his telescope and seeing the expanding universe and understanding the cosmic background radiation and so on. This idea that, which religion has been telling us for centuries and centuries, the idea that this universe may not just be a steady state, infinite universe, always there at the current extent, but instead, this universe may have had a beginning in time. Scientists, for example, currently believe that the universe is about 13.7 billion years old. It didn't always exist. Well, at least this universe that we find ourselves.
What existed before that?
Aha. Well, we have to think in different categories, because was there a before the origin of time and space? This used to be a problem that theologians contemplated and philosophers. Now it's a problem that physicists and cosmologists also have to contemplate, because we can't just say there was a before the beginning, because time, space, and matter are believed now to have come into existence together.
At the same time.
Yes. So you can ask yourself, was there a where? Well, not in the sense that we understand where spatially, before the singularity or the Big Bang. The Big Bang is the explosion. The singularity refers to the whole universe being concentrated into a point where everything began, and then exploding from there, and all the matter of the universe accelerating outwards and then coalescing to form stars and galaxies and so on. So there was no where for this to happen in our conventional understanding, and there was nothing happening before in our conventional understanding. But if space-time and energy, which is also matter, because Einstein stressed that matter and energy are interconvertible, E equals mc squared. Not only did Einstein do away with the absolute space and time of the Newtonian universe, and he tried to make the constant the speed of light, c. But mass and energy end up being one and the same thing in different states. And we may say spirit and matter and soul can be one as well in different states. Because if we realize that there's no absolute dichotomy between the spiritual and the material, and I think we need to do, I think this is an ingredient of the new paradigm. Yes, we can talk about, we can distinguish for the purposes of analysis the spiritual and the material, just as we can distinguish the creator from the creation. There is also a unity between them. And if we hold to that unity, then it's going to change the way that we relate to the environment. Because remember how I said that the dualism not only gives us a sense of the soul is different from the body's a machine and the soul's some ghost tenuously attached to the body. But the dualism makes us feel separate from the natural world and continually casts us in the role of operators, manipulators, technocratic manipulators of the natural world. So when you change the metaphysical understanding of the relationship between spirit and matter, you change all of that and you come up with a different environmentalism. Well, you come up with environmentalism. It's arguable that there was an environmentalism before we started thinking in these new ways. We also spoke, so in answer to your question, Belinda, there is no before that 13.7 billion. We have to start thinking about the origins in a different way if we're going to bring space and time into this evolving universe. We also mentioned in a previous video that the creator and the creation can be viewed as completely separate, and they have been. The deists, for example, put the creator totally outside of the creation. The pantheists don't distinguish the creator and the creation. For them, God and nature are the same thing. We are taking a middle way, a unifying way, a balanced way, and we're saying that the creator is intimately involved with the creation. The creator indwells the creation, and the creation subsists in the creator. If you like, God holds this world in being, but God indwells the world as well. And in some sense, the universe can be seen as the body of God. That makes a world of difference. Whether you're dealing with a dead universe that's completely external, or whether you're dealing with the body of God. And that opens up themes of incarnational themes, Eucharistic themes, and so on, which help bridge the gap between modern scientific thinking and traditional religious thinking. I want to get back to something ontological as well. I think there has to be an ontological basis to the new environmental paradigm. We can say that it has to be based on a complementarity of science and religion, yes. But there's a certain amount of philosophizing we can do and grasp of ontology, which is the study of being, which can help us here. Coming to clear notions of three philosophical axioms: existence, consciousness, and identity, can help us greatly. All of us have unprocessed notions of self, world, and other. We all have a sense of others, of the world, and of ourselves. But when we start analysing closely or examining, it's hard to extricate one from the other. And there's a reason for that, because they're not meant to be extricated, and they are inextricably mutually referent. When you wake up in the morning, you're going from a state of being where everything is soft and dreamlike, and it's completely interior and subjective. And then you wake up. In that moment of waking, you are waking into a world of hard edges. Suddenly, I know myself as a body in space. And everything around me...
Nightmare.
Well, for a lot of people, waking up is a nightmare. Is the first thought, the first feeling is dread and regret.
That's right.
If you were waking up in a concentration camp and you're blissfully asleep, or at least if your sleep isn't haunted by too many nightmares, that first moment of awakening and registering who you are and where you are and what the day holds is actually full of great dread, and you wish you could just go back to sleep.
That's right.
Unfortunately, too many people wake up like that, and would that it weren't so. But I'm just trying to draw attention to the fact that when we wake up into existence. And it's not a soft, blurry-edged world where everything interpenetrates. It's a hard world of separation, because I can see that desk over there and it's separate from me, or that ceiling and it's separate, or out there a tree or a carpet, and every item that I am aware of is at a distance and it's separate from me. It's its own entity. And I know it's not me. And I know there's a gap between me and it, a separation. How do I know? Well, two ways, I suppose. Give you two little thought experiments. If somebody put a sledgehammer through that wall, I wouldn't really feel it. I wouldn't be grimacing in pain. But if somebody took to me with the sledgehammer, and whacked me in my head or on my feet, I'd be grimacing in pain. In other words, I know my body, and it's different from these other entities. I'm somehow identified with my body in a way that I'm not identified with these other entities. And by being identified with my body, I'm situated, positioned in space. And I notice that there is space between and space around these other entities. I'm not calling them body because I have a special relationship with my body. They're just things, entities. And the other little thought experiment is this. I see a tree, I can walk around that tree. I see a piece of furniture like a table or chair, and I could walk around that table or chair. In theory, if I had a spaceship, I could navigate around the whole solar system. Just like they circumnavigated the globe in sailing ships. But I cannot walk around my own body. Why is that? I can kind of arch my head and look behind, but I can't get out of myself and walk around myself because I'm identified with my body.
And if you don't have a mirror, you'll never see what your back looks like.
Well, the back is symbolic. Like the dark side of the moon, the back is what I don't see of myself. And we're all in that position because we think we know ourselves, but there's a hidden side, and other people can see it, but we can't see it.
That's right.
And yet, in order to be whole, we have to be able to form some idea of what lies behind and behind the surface of consciousness. So we need a mirror to do that, don't we?
That's the only way is a mirror, yeah.
And so what is the mirror?
A reflection.
A reflection. And how do we ontologically, metaphysically, get a reflection of ourselves? We use a particular kind of mirror called the other. I'm reflected in the eyes of the other, in your eyes. You're the other. I'm the other to you. A baby looks up into the mummy's and the daddy's eyes and learns about itself. So, this first vector of awareness, which reveals existence, this hard world of entities separated in space, at the center of which is, and serving as my observation platform is my body positioned in space. But no sooner do I wake up into this world and I look around, I encounter the other. It could be my wife sleeping next to me. It could be the first recognizable, living other awareness I encounter suddenly throws me back on myself because I realize the relativity of my perspective. So the first vector of awareness is pre-reflective awareness. The second vector is reflective awareness. I look into the mirror of the others and I get my reflection. And what does that tell me ontologically? It tells me that I am a self-contained system. I'm a being.
And you've got a back.
I've got a back, and I've got a front, if you like, which the other sees. And I can't see that. I don't know how the other sees me.
No, you can't.
The existentialist philosophers like Jean-Paul Sartre and so on, they attributed a lot of significance to these insights. And certainly there is something we can extract from them. That all I see is my grasp of the world. This is my lamp. You may see the lamp, but all I know is my lamp. Mm-hmm.
That's it.
It's my sky. You may see the sky, but all I've got is my sky. Right? Possessive. It's, in a sense, interior to my universe. And this is how I arrive at the sense of consciousness. Consciousness. And it comes through encountering the other and seeing in the other my reflection. Because I'm looking now interiorly into my own world. And everything is actual in my world. I posit that the other, and this is something that philosophers say, well, you can't prove. It's a fundamental, basic belief. Nobody questions it. It's sort of self-evident. That say you, Belinda, you've got your own consciousness, your own world. But to me, everything, every item in consciousness, I can think of Belinda's room, and then there's my room, there's Belinda's room, this room. But it's imaginary to me. It's imaginary in the sense that it's actually not present to me. It's absent, but it's represented to my awareness as though it were present. And I take this for granted, but I should understand that the actual and the imaginary are brought together in my own awareness. Now, within my consciousness, there's a subject and an object. The subject is one, I, but the objects are multiple, manifold. There's no end to the number of objects I can see. I'm like a circle or a sphere. I'm a point at the centre with radii going out, all these other points that belong within my world. Even my imagining of the other is within my world. So it's not other. Other is non-being. So just that first pre-reflective vector of awareness, which is existential, which reveals existence, automatically brings up being and non-being. And then I get to consciousness and become aware of subject and object. Now we usually take all this stuff for granted, but I'm breaking it down so we understand why we see the world the way we do. Like the philosopher Immanuel Kant, perhaps the greatest philosopher of the Enlightenment period, from Germany. He conveyed that we see the world through spatial and temporal glasses. We don't see things as they are. We kind of impose categories on the world. And there's a sense in which this is true, because if you, let's take this table here. There's my table and there's your table. Belinda, there's your table, which I don't have direct access to. My table's actual, yours is imaginary to me. But is there the table? Is there the thing in itself, indicated by the definite grammatical article, the? Or is there no such thing as the table? Is there only my table, your table, his table, her table, their table, and so on? And there's a collective hallucination about the table. There's a dreaming up of the table. So we have these two options. And one option leads us to the concept of mind, and one option leads us to the concept of matter by way of the philosophical categories of reality and appearance, or appearance and reality. And it just so happens that we reconstruct reality as a philosophical concept. I had a friend in my early undergraduate days who used to amuse me by saying, reality, what a concept. It was like a Zen koan, like one of these paradoxical puzzles that you can't untangle. Because if it's a concept, it's not reality, but reality at the same time is a concept. And here we've gone on a journey, on an ontological journey, in a sense before time and space. We're at the origins of things, philosophically. We go pre-reflective to existence, reflective to consciousness, and then realizing that we have to construct the real world. Is this world a projection of mind, or is it based on matter as well, something that's out there, independent of consciousness? And that's the post-reflective awareness. So pre-reflective awareness, reflection, and post-reflective awareness gives us three vectors to our awareness. And if you think about it, and we can't go into it now, but it's possible to connect this to our consciousness of time with its three tenses of before, now, and after. Past, present, future. And if we look outside, every entity that we see is three-dimensional. So spatially, it's three-dimensional. We do wear spatio-temporal spectacles, and they give a 3D view of the world. 3 dimensions of space and 3 dimensions of time. What about geometry, you say? Yes, we have the point and the line and the plane. We have the 0-dimensional point, the 1-dimensional line, and the 2-dimensional plane before we get to the 3-dimensional solid. But none of those things actually exist in existence. They're abstractions. They're purely mental, purely theoretical. What I see in existence, every entity will have some length, some breadth, and some depth. Even if I take a speck, a spot, approximating the point, a spot of soil or a grain of sand, it will nevertheless have some length and breadth and depth. And this applies to anything out there, even if I have to measure it in nanometers. There's no such thing as a line, even something drawn on a page with a fine biro. Those ink particles will have some length and breadth and depth. In other words, it'll be 3 dimensions, pretending to be 2 dimensions. And the same with a plane, a thin piece of paper. Something as flat can be will nevertheless have length, breadth, and depth. There'll always be a thickness to it. So there we have it. We live in a 3 dimensional reality. That's part of the apparatus that we are working with. And how this relates to our environmental paradigm, we can talk more about next time.